Hi again, it's me, Dixie, and welcome to Tender After Tough, the podcast. I'm so happy you're back. I'm so happy you're here. I'm just so glad that you're listening to it. So today's podcast, let's just go back. In today's podcast, why don't we go back and then let's rummage onto where people get us misunderstood most of the time. And I kid you not, 90% of the time, a lot of people are quick to come up with a conclusion that's not entirely true, or that doesn't even involve them, or that's not entirely part of the whole novel. Do you get me? And as a girl who was once in the world of gossip, who once lived in the world of tea, who once lived in the world of fear where she does not want to disappoint people, who once lived in that novel, who once lived in that chapter of her life, I now understand why people say that protecting their peace and boundaries is such an underrated luxury. Like, it really is. I now understand what they mean about that. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about the most underrated luxury that most people do not have. Like, people cannot sit with it. People do not understand. Let's talk about it, because let's talk about, please don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just a woman. I'm just a girl. I'm just 21. And I'm trying. I really am. Anyway. But before we even try to talk about that, let's go back to where the story starts. Like, for me, let's go back to where I was once that girl who lived in the world of gossip. Scary. Oh my god. I'm digging my grave, honestly. Anyway, let's talk about that. Let's talk about where people are like, you know, when you like live in that world, you cannot escape it. Like, it's just, for you, it's unpaid therapy. Like, for you, it's just unpaid therapy. Like, that's where you live. Gossip is where you live. Like, you cannot live a day without it. I was once that girl. I was once that, it's not quite, it was good at that time. Like, short term, sure, it really is great. It really is great in the moment, but when you get involved in like a lot of stories, a lot of novels, a lot of chapters, in some people's chapters, when you kind of get involved in those situations, you're like, oh no, what did I do? And you cannot get out of it. Like, you cannot get out of it. If you get involved, you're involved. Does that make sense? Anyway, as a person who once loved doing this, I really hate it. As a person who once loved doing this, I lived in like social media at that time. Like, I want people to talk about me. I want that. Like, the negativity, I want that. That's not something to be proud of. I wanted that. Anyway, I wanted that. I wanted people to talk about me. Like, okay, I want that drama. I can't live without it. Like, give me the gist. Give me what you think. Anyway, that was my life before. Like, I lived in the world of social media where, like, I want people to, I want to assume things. That's what I wanted. Like, I want to, like, go in bed and then stalk people. Like, she's talking about me. And most often than not, I'm quite right, but that doesn't really matter. Anyway, so why do people always say, like, keeping your peace is such an underrated luxury? Like, why do people always say that? When people were telling me that when I was once in that chapter of my life, when I was once in that gossip chapter of my life, when people were telling me that, I was like, really? Like, you don't want drama in your life? Just a little bit? You don't want just a little bit of gossip in your life? And people always, most people that I've met here, they always tell me, we don't want that privilege. Like, it's not even a privilege. We don't want that in our lives. Like, if we want drama, there are bigger things that I need to focus on. There are better things. that I would just think about rather than getting myself involved in a drama that I do not even want to be in the first place. I just couldn't stand it when people say, keep your peace. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't stand it when people say, oh my god, my life is so peaceful. Like, well, is that even true? Like, is that even true? Like, who are you? Excuse me? Like, I just can't stand it when people say that, because for me, like, I live in a world of chaos. I once lived in that. Once. Again, we're just going back to the story. We're just going back to where I was. Because this growth is very personal to me. It's a very good comeback. It's really personal. That's what I wanted to say. Like, do not read in between the lines. That's just me. That's just my growth. That's me working on myself. Let's go back to the main topic. I once got myself involved in a lot of situations I did not ask for. I did not want to. I did not, like, it just so happened because I opened my mouth. It just so happened because I, like, spilled the tea. It just so happened because I did that. But here's a reminder that when you get to spill the tea, you do not want that to stain on another person. Like, you do not want it to stain on another person. So you either go, so today, like, I once wanted that. Like, I wanted that to stain on you. Like, if I spill the tea, it has to stain on you. Not a good thing, not a good decision, not even a great chapter. Like, it was fun during the moment, but long term, it is not. Anyway, going back, now what I do is, because I do not want to spill that, I do not want that to stain. What I do is I either go talk to the other person, let them know that, okay, this is what's happening, this is what the other person is feeling, and I refuse to get involved in all of this. They talk to me, I feel like you should know, because they want you to know, but they do not know how to communicate this. They want you to know, but they just don't know how to approach you. So I am approaching you. I'm the bridge. I'm doing this for the sake of everybody's peace. You go talk to this person and communicate this little problem out. Like, communicate this little drama, because I don't want to get, and if you've communicated all of it, I don't want to get involved. Like, I did my part. It is what it is. I did my part. That's all that I'm gonna do. Or maybe if this person does not want me to talk to the other person, I just keep it to myself. Like, because I refuse to get involved in such situations. I just do not have the time for it. Like, I'm too busy in my own schedule. I am too busy in my own self-growth. Both the solutions you've offered to yourself leads back to keeping your boundaries, keeping your peace. It all leads back to that. It all circulates to that. But talking to the person involved and acknowledging that both parties have, like, misunderstood each other or are accountable. Both parties are accountable. You want them, you encourage them to talk about it. Like, you encourage them to talk about it. That's what you want. As a person who was once a gossip girl, you want to know the story. Like, after that, you want to know the story of how they talked, how it happened, like, what's going on, where are you guys leading? Like, where is the friendship going? After that, you want that. But then, as a person who grew, like, who stepped out of that zone, you let them know. You let these people know, like, that, talk about it, but leave me out of it. Like, do not get me involved. I do not want any story. I don't want to know anything that happens after your communication. I do not want to know anything after your coffee. I do not want to know anything. I just do not want to get myself involved. Like, I do not want that. And talking that out to people, it's just such, it is true that it's such a luxury that you cannot buy, because you're keeping it's such a way out. Like, you let people know that you do not want to be involved. That's just a way out. Like, quickly, it's a way out. And truly, that's a luxury you cannot buy. It's not even it's not a designer bag you cannot buy. Your peace costs nothing. It's just you changing yourself. It's just you changing your mindset. It's just you changing how you connect with your environment. Keeping your mouth shut, while that tears you apart inside, well, that tears you apart inside. You have to train your emotions. You have to train yourself not to get your emotions involved in this kind of situations. Like, sure, you feel sorry for them. Like, sure, you feel sorry for them. But then at the end of the day, that's not your problem. Like, a shared burden is half a burden. That's all that it is. They just want a listener. Keeping your mouth shut and keeping it to yourself, they just want somebody to listen. That's all that it is. It's not for you to go, if a person is involved, it's not for you to go talk about it to other people. It's not for you to go talk about it to some mutual friends. That's not for you, because they trust you completely. You should never, ever, ever, ever share the story, not until they wanted you to go talk to a person specifically involved in that chapter. You know what I'm saying? Like, do not go talking to people, like spreading that particular story a friend shared, because they trust you. As I said, a burden shared is half a burden, but that doesn't mean that you have to be part of the burden. Share with your friend the solutions that you could give them. Like, share the advice, share these lessons, share your experience, as I said, share the solutions, but do it where you do not have to keep yourself involved in the situation. You know what I'm saying? Do it where your limit is just, if your limit is there, put it here. That's all you can do, or rather listen. Like, listening is a very great start. Like, rather just listen. Be a listener. If they blame you for not talking to the other person, well, you did not tell me to talk to the other person. If they blame you for not stepping up, well, you did not tell me to do that. That's not my story to tell. I'm so sorry. Do not blame me for some miscommunication that you did. Do not blame me for not telling me to actually go talk to the other person. Like, do not blame me for the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. Please don't get people wrong when they're trying to put themselves away in a situation where they refuse to get involved, because the feelings and the emotions that they get when they're in that particular situation it's just something they tried so hard to heal from. It's something they tried so hard to get over from. It's something they tried so hard to get away from. And as much as you want to get their opinion, or as much as you want them to talk about it, and they refuse to do so, I beg you not to force them. Like, I beg you not to force them, because you haven't seen what that person has seen, or you haven't been involved, not even close. And I am deeply sorry if that offends you or upsets you in any way possible. I really apologize, and I do understand that it is not your fault that they've been in those situations. I do understand that, but I am deeply sorry if that offends you. But truth be told, they just do not want to go back to that situation. Truth be told, they just don't want to be in a situation where they have to get over from that again. They have to recover again. They do not have the luxury for it, because healing from those kind of emotions, healing from those kind of anxiety is something a lot of people do not understand, because it comes and goes. And one thing that would trigger them, like one particular situation that triggers them, it's just starting from the ground up again. It's just starting from zero. Like, now you have to get away with it again. And that's time. Like, it takes time to do that. It takes time to heal from that. It really does. And it hurts a lot. It hurts a lot of people, but a lot of people do not understand that. Even if you explain to a lot of people, they just don't care. So if they do not care, they do not bring that care to your table, just leave yourself out of it. Like, do not get involved in any situations that they do not care about how you feel. So honey, please, do not get upset. Like, please don't. Second thing that is a very common misconception to people is, when I make a mistake, that defines me for the rest of my life, and I have to live with the consequences of it for, like, eternity. And as I said, I was once a person who was so scared of failure, who was so scared of mistakes, who was so scared to disappoint people. I was once that person, because I was too scared to, like, disappoint people who believes in me. But isn't that what a lot of us had to go through. While I was doing that, while I was scared, I was totally unaware of the fact that I was I was at the verge in my life where I was committing mistakes due to, like, I was committing mistakes totally unaware. My subconscious is like, my mind says it's not a mistake, talk about it, but I was making mistakes due to hatred and anger, because I was full of hate. Like, I hated it when people tell me what to do. I hated it when people tell me what not to do. I hated it when people, like, directs me in the opposite direction where I'm going. I hated that. That feeling was just so horrible to me. But then again, I understood why. Like, believe me when I tell you that the way you connect to your environment, like the way you connect to your environment, that may be social media, peers, the books you read, even the weather and whatnot, etc. Everything, the way you connect to your environment, is very crucial on the way you think. It's very crucial on the way you develop your mindset. Like, believe me when I say that. And if you think that your environment is the problem and you go about changing it, and then why not change it? Why not change your environment? But before you do that, let me tell you something. I was once the person who thought that my environment was the problem. So I went out and changed the environment that I was involved in, like, completely changed it. Not knowing that connecting and environment has to come together. You know what I said on the first, just a while back, I said the way you connect to your environment, it just has a very crucial effect on how you think. When I changed my environment, I didn't know that the connect and environment has to come together. Like, I did not carry that on my back. I did not carry connect on my back. So I moved out, totally forgot about connect, totally slipped in. It totally just went out. It flushed from the toilet or whatever. And I don't know. I kind of just, everything just fell apart. Like, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing things perfectly. Like, I was signing papers perfectly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought it was just so perfect. I just didn't think it wasn't. I just didn't thought about, damn. Like, in order for me to connect to a new environment, I need to change myself too. In order for me to be able to gain that change that I was longing for, it has to start with me too. Like, that hit deep. I don't know about you, but it did hit deep with me. Sure, you can change what you think the problem is, but misery never ends. But misery never ends when the obvious problem does not even change. The obvious problem being yourself. So I changed myself, and then from then on, handling things, big or small, it went by pretty quickly. Like, it became lighter. It became, the weight of it just became so much lighter. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but once you go through some phases of your life, like, once you go through all of that, you'd come back. I know you'd come back. Like, I hope we connect. I hope I make sense. I do hope I make sense. You know, everyone makes mistakes in their life. Huge or the tiniest bit of mistake might be a big deal to you, might be a very sensitive thing to some people, or might be a misunderstanding or miscommunication to some people. But that doesn't mean that you have to pay for this mistake for the rest of your life. And by the way, you don't get to hurt people and let them know that it's not even that big of a deal. You just can't, like, stop doing that. Stop normalizing that. Sometimes, you know what? Sometimes good people make bad choices. They make bad decisions. Sure. Sometimes they make that, but that doesn't mean they're monsters. That doesn't mean they're not reflecting on it. That doesn't mean they didn't change. That doesn't mean it has to define them for the rest of their life. That doesn't mean that. Good people are allowed to make mistakes too. Like, it makes them human. We all do. We all do. If a bad person commits a mistake, we don't even go and judge that. You know what I'm saying? We don't even go out our way and say, oh my god, like, he did that? Like, it's not a big deal if if you know a bad person commits that mistake. I'm not comparing good and bad, but you just know one person's personality. But when when a nice person comes in and makes the tiniest bit of mistake, we make it a dramatic entrance. We make it a whole novel. We make it a whole book. We make it their personality. That once you were nice, and then you just made this tiniest bit of mistake, you're the bad guy. I don't understand why people think that. Like, I really don't. Imagine waking up in the morning and you hear the news. You hear the news of somebody. Just imagine waking up in the morning and then you hear the news of a nice person committing a terrible mistake maybe they've made. And then we go about and stir our coffees and judge this nice person because this person because of what the person did. Not even judging the person who attacked the person. You know what I'm saying? Why don't we redefine it? Why don't we redirect? Why don't we go back? Like, why don't we ask why the person acted that way? Like, I just really don't understand. Why are we so quick to jump into conclusions? It does not make sense at all. Nice people are human too. Like, they really are. They're human too. That's what makes the world very interesting. Like, nice people should be nice people, but bad people are human. It does not make sense at all. Anyway, last and the final thing that always bothers me is what I was saying, is how people are too quick to jump into conclusions. Like, get this. I reacted in a way where something that is really valid, if somebody did it to you, you reacted that in a very valid way, very real way, very demure, very mindful, very cutesy. And then people just came in quickly, swooped in, not knowing the whole story. The fruit of the labor defends the other person, which, by the way, it breaks my very soul. You know, that feeling when people come in because they saw that you're like maybe slapping another person. You know that feeling when you can't defend yourself because that's what people saw, and they do not even ask why you acted that way. Why did you slap that person? Or why did it? Let's change the scenario. That's not good. When you talk back to a person and people heard it, and then because of what they heard, they come in, swoop in, and then they're defending the other person because you cannot talk to the other person this way. Like, excuse me for talking this way. Who asked me what this person told me? Like, who asked me what triggered me? Nobody. Most of the time, nobody does. And that honestly breaks my very soul. I do cry inside. And then at the end of the day, you just go reflecting and you go like, can't trust people anymore. Like, I am crying inside for not being able to defend myself on the exact scenario. Like, not even close to defending myself properly. Now you know how society works. Like, why don't we go back and redirect things? Why don't you ask the person what that person said? Why don't you ask me why I acted that way? You know what I'm saying? Like, do not put the blame on me for acting really harsh. If the other party acted really harsh too. Going back, how did we get upset to the person who made me react this way? How about that? How about we go back and get to the root of the problem? What are you mad at me for anyway? Like, why do I have to be the bigger person? Like, do not get me wrong. I will be the bigger person and apologize. I will do that. But a little step up is a very big game changer. So if you have tried it all, being kind, caring, loving, genuine, being the bigger person, forgiving, you've tried it all from hell to heaven. You've been the angriest person, but then you stepped up. You've been this monster, but then you stepped up. Like, you took accountability. Like, when you've tried it all from hell to heaven, what would be your biggest luxury? Like, continuing to adjust your boundaries to some people's disrespect? Or maybe adjusting your life a little bit. Like, maybe adjusting your life to their absence. Like, remember guys, friendships are relationships too. Just want to end this with not my words. I just came across it. And it is the reason why this episode even exists. People who cannot communicate think that everything is an argument. And people who lack accountability and self-awareness think that everything is an attack. And hey, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you are not responsible to the version of you that exists in other people's minds. If they want you to be someone you're not, that is no way your responsibility. Be your most authentic self. Like, clap back and God bless everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Tender After Tough. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. I think so. Anyway, I love you.